There it is. There it is. And there she is. Wrong chalkboard there. But I'm still here. Or I'm here this morning. Good morning. How are you? This is Dr. Annette Feravich. Of course you know that. And we are here in what? In the early bird classroom. Thank you for joining me. I have so much to do with you today that let's go ahead and get started, I think, right? I mean, we're already 10 minutes into the class. I was working really late last night. Well, no, I fell asleep early. So then I got up in the middle of the night and started working at 1:45 until 5. And then this morning came and I was like, oh. But that's okay because this is the last day of the week. For our week, because we worked hard already on Tuesday and Wednesday. Nobody can tell us otherwise. We worked hard. I worked hard. I hope you worked hard as well. I see you out there working. I hear your little comments. You've got this. I know you're out there lurking around in that good way and listening to what I have to say to you and doing what you're supposed to be doing. Brushing your teeth in the morning, at least splashing a little water, which I did this morning. I think maybe I didn't do that. Maybe that's the reason I'm getting the little buggers out of my eyes. Let's get going. We have a lot to talk about. You know it's Science Week this week, right? But let me get this one up over here. I really wanted to talk to you about cells because I wanted to learn more about cells, and I thought cells were cool when I learned about them. I thought it was really cool. But I do think it's a little bit too old for the early birds right now. We haven't given you guys enough background yet. So we're not going to talk about, we're not getting to cells. We're going to start with living things. What are living things? Signs of life. That's what we're looking at. We're going to be looking at signs of life. Do you have signs of life this morning? I have signs of life this morning, right? I have signs of life that my body is working, producing something that's coming out of my eyeballs, right? And something that in the morning with my breath, that's being produced by something, right? That's a sign of life, isn't it? Maybe not the best life, but it is a sign of life. That is for sure. Let's take a look at what we've got today. Okay. What did she say she worked so hard on last night? Well, we talked about the rainforest yesterday and more the day before, right? We were talking about observations yesterday, and I don't even remember exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about rain, clouds, and the rain cycle, and then, some other things about observing. I don't remember, but I thought that you needed a definition of rainforest. And so I put that up there. If you remember, we took a look at this slide here, which is the Amazon Tall Tower Observatory, which is in Brazil in the rainforest that overlooks the rainforest. And the Amazon rainforest is in Brazil as well. So that's likely where that tower is. And so I thought maybe it's not a bad idea for us to understand what is a rainforest. And a rainforest is an area of tall, mostly evergreen trees and a high amount of rainfall. So lots of trees, forest, hence the part of the name forest, and a high amount of rainfall, hence the name rain, the part of the name rain. That's a compound word. Rainforest is a compound word made up of two words, rain, heavy amounts of rain, and forest, mostly evergreen trees. Rainforest. They are the Earth's oldest living ecosystem, as old as 70 million years. That's 70,000,000. We remember that from our math and our place values, right? 70 million years that these ecosystems have been building their signs of all kinds of life. That's the reason why we have to be very careful about preserving the rainforest. You hear lots about what we should be doing for the environment, but maybe sometimes you don't understand why we want to do this for the environment. These are ecosystems, and an ecosystem contains all kinds of life. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about today, what is life? What are the signs of life? How do I know I'm living and this is not? Well, how do I know that I am living and this is not? How do I know that? Can you see my eyeball? Because I can't see you. It's all blurry. How do I know that this is not a living thing? How do I know that? How do I know that? Well, there must be some ways that science explains what is living and what's not. I feel like I know it in my brain, what's alive and what's not. I know a bug's alive. I feel like I know it in my brain, right? What's alive and what's not. I brought out my magnifying glass too so that we could look at some leaves. And maybe we could see. The cells of some leaves. Maybe I should take this down if I'm going to do that though, right? Maybe we can see the cells. And now we've got that light in there, that circle light in there. Stop with the circle light. Oh, now we got only one in it. Oh, now we got two again. Stop the playing. This is class. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's get going. So we are going to be learning about what makes something living. What makes something alive? Are these flowers alive? They were. How are they not alive anymore? How do we know? Because I cut them. So they were alive just because they went, now they're not? What makes something alive? Let's look. All right, so I showed you those. I have another, this is a different slide because we also talked, not yesterday, but on Tuesday about the water cycle. And this is, and remember we were talking about how important it is for us to make sure that we are not polluting the lands, because we end up getting polluted water from all of the things that we are using that then runs off into our rivers, and it gets collected when it runs off, right? It gets collected. There's the collection down there at the right. And the collection of water evaporates. That there is condensation, right? So condensation occurs in the clouds, where the clouds get more and more moisture after the water evaporates. Finally, the clouds get so dense, so heavy with moisture that it's got to precipitate. Rain, sleet, hail, snow, that's all precipitation. That all then runs down into the water and the rivers, and then runs into our lakes and our oceans, and evaporates back up when it gets heated up from the sun, and the water cycle continues. This is why we have to take such care with all of our energy resources. You can see here that the effects of acid rain are coming very often from the chemicals and pollutions from our trucks, our airplanes, and our vehicles. And so we really have to start thinking about new sources of energy so that we're not putting that dirt back up into the clouds along with the water, right? And we've got to make sure that when the water evaporates, that that is clean water that goes back up into our clouds, right? Otherwise, we get dirty rain like the acid rain we saw, and we get dirty lakes and streams that get evaporated back up into the clouds. So this is the reason why it's so important to understand what is life, and then to really have a duty to protect life on this planet. It is our duty. We have been commissioned by God. If you remember in our story about Adam and Eve, we have been commissioned by God to take care of this planet. And if we don't take care of this planet, He will assuredly, that's for sure, take this planet away from us. No doubt about it. So we have to take care of this planet, right? Right? That's right. That's right, Dr. Feravich. We have to take care of our planet. Really? Then what are you doing? Are you recycling? You should. I recycle, although I don't recycle everything. I hope our recycling companies are doing their job because I'm trying to do my job. Somebody needs to investigate that, along with Rick Snyder, and making sure that he's not polluting our waters like we had the problem in Flint. In Michigan, we have a special job to protect water because we have the largest freshwater bodies, I think, on the planet, but at least here in the United States, but maybe on the whole entire planet. These are the largest bodies of fresh water. Now, if you ask Elon Musk, we could take ocean water and we could turn it in, and we could remove the salt and use that as fresh water. Yeah, not my fresh water. And the only reason why we would have to do that is because we don't have individuals who are willing to, we don't have corporations who are willing to, we don't have corporations who are willing to stop their polluting and spend the money, get forced to spend the money, or spend the money because they have great big hearts to clean it up, right? We had that great big Exxon oil spill. Find out how much they ended up paying for it, and who ended up paying, how much did the taxpayers pay for that oil spill? And that was the one we were told about. How many oil spills do you suppose we haven't been told about? And then we know what happens to that now. Now we know the sun heats up the water evaporates. And we haven't talked about evaporation, but when you heat up water in a pot and that steam comes up out of the pot, that's evaporation. Now, we don't see it happen out there, right? It happens slowly. Sometimes we see it. Sometimes you can see that evaporation happening, right? But a lot of times we don't see the evaporation happening like we do. It's so hot when we're heating up a pot of water, that water gets so hot that we can see the evaporation because it happens so much more quickly, right? Okay, but still, same idea. That water gets up into the air. And if that water is all dirty, our air is dirty, our clouds are dirty. Our air is dirty, our clouds get dirty, our rain is dirty. And then that acid rain that we were talking about, if that's acid rain, that will end up, I'm trying to find a good word for you. That will end up, it's called erosion. It will end up just flaking away at the rocks and stones and mountains. That's what will happen. Earth will not look like Earth anymore if we have this acid rain coming out. Now, this isn't to give you nightmares. This isn't for you to be like, oh. But you might want to do that in your pillow every once in a while. I do. I do. Yeah, not really. I solve the problem up here is what I do. I don't scream at my pillow. I do things. I put that energy. Honestly, I don't scream at my pillow. I don't. I put that energy into doing something about it. And I've been reading a lot of things that we can do to help our planet. And I've been talking about them. They've been from this book that I've been reading in our spiritual classroom. They have all kinds of really great ideas in here. Um, well, you get the idea. No, you don't. Read the newspaper each day for the next week. Now, I don't know if you can read or not, but hopefully you've been practicing your reading. We're gonna do we're gonna do next week. We're back on phonics and grammar. Next week we're gonna get done with all of our grammar, all of it, and I don't have to talk about it again. It's there. It's not gonna change. Nouns aren't all of a sudden gonna have action. They're still gonna be people, places, and things, right? And so those are all done. And you know what we're gonna start doing by the end of the week in our grammar next week? I had so much fun doing this. Diagramming sentences. Where did I say I was going to get a sentence from? I said I was going to get a sentence from this book, didn't I? So we're going to start diagramming sentences. I'm going to take one of W.E.B. Du Bois' sentences because they're long. Not all of them. And then later on, I found this book. I bought this book. I just got it off the shelves because I was talking about it in another class. Reconstruction. Oh my gosh, what a great book. What a great book. I think I might have been talking about this one in because I don't think I'm going to read this one in this class. It's more for high school and it's too long. So I don't think I'm going to read this one in this class, but this reconstruction book, I think I talked about it in critical thinking class. So we have a lot of stuff coming up. I'm so excited. But next week, we're going to learn, by the end of the week, we should, cross your fingers, learn how to diagram sentences. But here, read the newspaper each day for the next week. Cut out every article highlighting a violation of human rights and dignity. You might cut out every article that has to do with violations of the environment. Oh my gosh, you better get a scissor sharpener. At the end of the week, reflect on this exercise. Share your insights and feelings with a friend. What a great idea. What a great idea. I can't even get over this. These great ideas. They have 3 great ideas, but they're really more specifically for this. But I knew that one of them would be for you. I knew I could find one for you. I forgot to show you yesterday that this is the book where I got, and of course, oh, maybe I will be able to find it. I all of a sudden, there's some wild stuff here. Wild stuff here. You're like, show me then. I know. Look at that. What is that? Great big giant hand. But, is this the Amazon rainforest or no? Are we just getting to it? Oh, here. See here? This is where I got that stat from. That's coming up. I'm going to bring that up. So this is where I got the stat from, and I got the pictures. These pictures all came. Well, maybe I'll turn it on now. That picture, no, that picture did not. That came from the website. This picture did not come from this book, but I got it from a website. But I got the idea from this book. I learned the idea from this book, and yep. Yeah, and that dog picture, and what other picture did I get out of here? Weird but true. They're just, I know. They're just like, don't even tell me about it when you're sitting over there looking at them all by yourself. I don't want to hear about how cool they are. But look at these, how beautiful these pictures are. I'm trying to find that without having to go into, because it was in Antarctica is where it was. It was a green page. And I swear, oh, look at those beautiful pictures. Oh, there we go. This is, oh my gosh. Here, I'm not sure if I got to this picture or not. Temperatures around the base of this Halley or Haley 6 is low as -4 degrees to -67 degrees Fahrenheit. Minus temperature. We have, see that? See that? That says minus there. Minus in front of it. What does that mean? What does that mean? There's no temperature? We're going to learn about that. What does minus mean? We're going to learn about that. That'll be in the next time we come back to math again. We're going to learn a little bit about what that means. But here are where I got so many of my wonderful ideas from and so many of my wonderful pictures from this National Geographic book. Okay, let's try and get this done. We did get through a lot of slides already, though, actually, even if many of them were repeat. And there we go again. Remember, that's where I got the one solution from, that we can have vending machines. What a simple solution. It makes me so upset with all of the schooling that we have here, all the money that we pay to go to our universities. And I'm sure somebody could come up with this idea, but no, a bunch of grab hands have to get at their money for their dog food and take advantage of the people's love for their pets, veterinarians, and stores $100. Well, it's not just, veterinarians, but veterinarians are doing that. And when something happens to our pet, and they know there's nothing they could do. Something happened to my dogs and she was limping. And what I found out was that she probably just hurt her nail. And the doctor said, I went and took her to the vet because she was limping and I didn't know what happened. And he's like, well, we could take some x-rays. This is how much it's going to cost. And of course, there's no insurance for that. Well, what are you going to do to her paw if there's something wrong with it? He's like, it's not broken, but we can take an x-ray. Well, what are you going to do if, whatever? We're just going to wrap it. Yeah, thanks. See ya. Right? Taking advantage of our love of pets by charging us $100 a bag. I have a small dog, thank goodness. So she doesn't eat. She eats a lot slower. People who have big dogs, I don't even know how you can't afford to have a pet any longer. And that's wonderful for poor people that need to have a pet and they can't afford to feed their pet because our dog food costs more than steak in this country. It's ridiculous. And steak is for the very rich. And even then, what are they feeding the poor people? You call it steak just because you're robbing the people. Dr. Feravich is going down the whoop. Bring back a wandering mind. We were talking about all of the elements, right? And how we have to take care of our environment. And that includes all of those things, all of these elements, because these elements, when they combine together, make up everything we have here on the planet, living and non-living, all those elements. Okay, so living things, what makes something a living thing? How can you tell if something is a living thing? Let me see if I've got any notes here. Every organism or living thing is made up of cells, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Just not quite yet. We're not going to talk about that. How can we tell if something is living? Well, what we know is that living things have all of these qualities. And what are these qualities? They are all living things can move. Let me get some of my notes up here that I want to get up here. All living things can move. They have moving parts. For example, and I'm getting this from Science Square because they have really good examples here, and I don't want to miss something. A horse runs from one place to another. Birds fly, fish swim, right? You run. So we see these living things move. We don't see plants move in the same way, but what we do see is we see plants move towards the sun. Let me actually give you something that exactly what I'm looking at. Here we go. That's better. There we go. Look at that. Okay, all right. And so you can see there in the picture how when the plant was tipped over in the picture that the plant bent and moved towards the sun. So you can see trees that lean towards the sun or plants that are trying to move closer to the sun. So plants and leaves bend in the direction of the sun. Living things grow. So that's how we know if something is living. Living things move, living things grow. We can see human beings go from infancy to old age. We can see trees that go from a little seed to a seedling to a small plant to a tree, right? So we see growth of living things. We'll get into that, I'm sure. Living things breathe. Look at that. Did you know that plants have little holes in them called stomata? And those stomata, they allow the plant to actually breathe, to take in oxygen. There's another way that plants take in oxygen that we're going to learn about as well. But I forgot all about the fact that plants have stomata and that stomata are little holes in them. And of course, you know that most animals that you know are dogs, are people. We have noses that take in oxygen. What about fish, right? So horse, cows. All of a sudden I can only think of one animal apparently. Let me move that over for a sec. What do you think fish use? What do fish use? Because every living thing needs oxygen. That's why we breathe. Every living thing needs oxygen, which is what we get when we breathe. What do fish use to get oxygen since they don't have noses? What do fish use? Do you know? Fish use their gills. There are gills and they look like accordions. If you've never seen them before, they look like accordions on the side of the fish. I'm going to look it up right now. There they are. There's a picture of the gills on, can you see that? No, you cannot. There we go. That's the best way for me to show you the picture of those gills. So see, they are on the side of that fish right here, just like I said. And they kind of, they're red, like they're pink like that, because they're part of it's like a flesh. They're like the fleshy part of a fish. And they look like an accordion is what they look like. And they're on both sides of the fish here. So that's how a fish breathes, is using their gills. Let's get back. Where were we on this? Make that a little smaller. There we go. That's probably better. Okay, so what does it say there? All living things breathe. Different animals have organs that they use for breathing. Some animals like horse, monkey, dog use their nose. Fish have gills for breathing. We humans breathe through our nose, while plants breathe through small openings on their leaves called stomata. The person who wrote this did not use a check for the grammar, so there's some they're not inappropriate, but there's some poor grammar here. Living things reproduce. Living things produce new living things. We call those organisms. Any living thing on the planet, we call those organisms. So if I didn't want to call every living thing on the planet, like I might be talking about bacteria too. We haven't gotten to that. Bacteria, algae floating on the water that we see. That green slimy stuff on the top of the water, right? Or in the water, that's living as well. Those are kind of like plants or little single-celled organisms, some of them are. So when we talk about all living things, we call them organisms. Every living thing is an organism. All right? We can even talk about things that were once living as organisms as well. I'm very sad I got those flowers, and I'm not surprised. I got those flowers from Kroger, and they're not even opening up. $7 is not a lot to spend on flowers at all, but it's like burning money if they don't, if they're basically dead when you get them. Want. Living things produce new living things or organisms. Some give birth to their young. Some give birth to their young ones, while some lay eggs. Plants have seeds, and these seeds turn into new plants. Chickens lay eggs, and a chick hatches from these eggs. You can see somebody did not do a grammar check on this at all. I didn't realize that. But I do like the definitions, and I do like the pictures a lot. Living things need food and water. So did you see this? We've got a list here, don't we? We've got a list. Living things can move. Living things grow. Living things breathe. Living things make other living things. Living things need food and water. Living things need food to survive and stay healthy. A horse feeds on the grass to get energy. A plant makes its own food using a process that's called photosynthesis. Some animals, like lions, tigers, eagles, eat or feed on other animals. Living things need to feel. Living things have senses. They react and change in their surroundings. For example, If you remove your hand, for example, you remove your hand from a hot pan, the leaves of the mimosa plant close. I'm trying to make sure that it's not poor grammar. Close immediately when you touch them. An animal sees, smells, tastes, hears, and feels. Living things die. All living things grow old and die. We can say something is alive if it displays all of the above things, which are they feel, they need food and water, they make other living things, they breathe, they grow, and they can move. So they die, right? But we can say something is alive when it does all of those things. Non-living things are things that cannot breathe, cannot feel, cannot grow, cannot move, and do not give birth to young ones. And they are called non-living things, like a fan, like a house, like a car, like coal. Okay? And non-living things are made of two different categories: man-made non-living things and natural non-living things. Man-made non-living things are things like umbrella, table, chair, pencil, bottles, those things. They are well, we see them in our but they are not in our environment naturally. They are not in our environment naturally. What's in our environment that are non-living things that are natural in our environment? Things like rain. Things like rocks. Rocks are not man-made, but they're not living either. Rain is not man-made, but it's not living either, right? A river is not man-made and it's not living, but it's not living either. Those are things in nature that are non-living things. So, non-living things are found in two categories. There are man-made non-living things, like this book, right? A person made this book. And there are things in nature that are non-living, right? Like sugar. Sugar is found in nature, but it's not living. All right. Let's take a quick look at because I know we're over our time. We're probably going to get started a little bit late. But I just want to show you that I've got some other things for you too. Oh, that's to do for living things and for non-living things, to identify living and non-living things. Now, I have a circle there already, as you can see, and I'm going to make that circle bigger now. So we can circle the living things. We're going to circle the living things. A parrot. Is a parrot a living thing? Yes, a parrot is a living thing. Is rain a living thing? No, rain is natural, but it is not a living thing. Is that guy a living thing? Well, not the picture of him, but yes, guys are living things, aren't they? And so we put a circle around that living thing. What about that boat there? Is that boat a living thing? No, a boat is a man or a woman made that boat. It is man-made. What about that puppy? Is that puppy a living thing? Well, let's see here. Let's look at this other page. So, there's what living things do. So when we look at those pictures there, does that puppy move? Does that puppy have little puppies when it grows up? Does that puppy feel? Does that puppy grow? Does that puppy breathe? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Does that puppy, move it up here. Basically die. Excretion is die. Does the puppy die or provide waste, right? And does the puppy need to eat? Yes, the puppy has to do all of those things. And so we know that not on the puppy page, hold on. We know that the puppy is a living thing as well, right? And so you can go through the rest of those items to decide, are they living things or not? So, for example, is the tree a living thing? If it is, put a circle around it. Are those mushrooms living things? Well, red with white polka dots, I'm not sure. Is that packback a living thing? Is that jar of jelly beans a living thing? Is that volcano a living thing? Is Snow White a living thing? Is that lighthouse a living thing? And how do we know? How do we decide if it's a living thing or not? Does it, let me get that one up there. Does it move? Does it make other new living things? Can it feel? Can it grow? Can it breathe? So that's how we decide, are those things living things? I don't know if I didn't move that up for you, did I? There we go. So there are the other items. Okay. All right. It is 8:53 and we have run out of time, although we went over our time, which is good because we got here late. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. We are done for the week, even though we didn't get to half of what we needed to get to today for our living things. I have other worksheets for you for living things to try and decide what is living and what isn't. So, I've been telling you to email me, but my email isn't working correctly. And, well, you know the story. But I have all kinds of other things for you to, let's see here. Take a look at. as far as living and non-living things. This item here is classifying living and non-living things. So from this list here at the bottom, parrot, lion, book. Let's get this out of the way. So here is the list. There's the list down at the bottom. Parrot, table, lion, boy, bug, tree, book, sun, cat, air, burger, and snail. And then you put them in the list of living things or non-living things. You can see that there are some living things, some man-made things, and some natural things that are non-living as well. So check it out. And we'll come back actually when we come back, we'll have some true and false questions as well on living things and non-living things, which should be really good for us. So we still have a lot to talk about, but we did get through a lot of information, didn't we? Don't you think we did? Let me see what we have next on our PowerPoint. Oh, I knew I had more on living and non-living things. So there are living things, people, animals, and plants, and non-living things, natural non-living things like rocks, the sun, rain, clouds, and man-made things. And we know that living things need food and water and air and sun and shelter. So if you want to move ahead, you can go ahead and draw a bird and you can see what they feed on for food, water, and air is the same. It's all around us. Sunlight is the same for all of them. And then you can look at the different types of shelter for a bird, for a tree, and for you. And if you're not sure, use your eyeballs, get outside, and observe. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. We have had a week of science, and we could have crammed so much more into this week. I'm going to be back here on Labor Day. We're going to have a Labor Day special, and I will probably be back here for early birds. We'll see on Monday. I'm not sure. But I'll be back here sometime on Monday for a Labor Day special. This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and thank you for joining me here in the classroom. I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I hope you enjoy your holiday, and I hope that you're ready to get back to school. If you aren't quite ready to get back to school, let me share with you this. Yesterday, we talked about training your brain, didn't we? And now here are some ideas on how to change your mindset. I think I got this from Twinkle. It's another one of those Twinkle things. So when you're saying things like, this is too hard, you can change your mindset and say, I need more time and practice to get better at this. When your mindset says, I messed up, instead say, I can learn from my mistakes. I'm going to leave that up for you to take a look at that. You can pause, obviously, your video there and take a look at how some really great suggestions on how to train your brain, like we talked about yesterday, if you remember. How come I can't find the train your brain? That's weird. There it is. So we talked about, it was because it wasn't yesterday, did we? Yeah, we talked. Yeah, it was yesterday. So yesterday we talked about train your brain, and now here are some really great ideas on how you can very specifically train your brain to change your mindset. I'm going to be back here at 9:30, likely, since we ran a little bit long. I'll be back here at 9:30 for our Bookless classroom. All right. We've got a lot to do in that classroom, so I'll probably run long in that classroom as well. But I want a little break to make my coffee. Thanks for joining me here in the Early Bird Classroom. I'm the teacher. I've already said 100 times. Do you know what this is? It's the classroom. Thanks.